should we get started, or should we let more people trickle through? Ming?
Yeah, let's get started.
All right, I'll do it then. So let's see here. Yeah. All right. Well, welcome everyone. We are doing our first Street Smart tour in a while. I think the last one we did was almost a year ago. So welcome. Sorry, I didn't do these slides, so I'm reading them for the first time.
For those who are new to Demolition.
We're not professional event planners, as you can see. We know real estate, we just don't know how to put together a good event. So anyway, we've got some recordings, some live segments. As Ming was saying, it's because one of the projects is actually done and rented now. We can't get through. So we recorded this like a couple weeks ago. But what we're going to do is we're going to do a live segment first, then go through some financials and then some Q&A, and then we're going to go through the recorded segment, some financials and then some Q&A. Right? If you've got questions, put them in the chat box. They're going to be queued up, and then they'll be surfaced again during the Q&A time frame. And then we always get this question. Yes, it's going to be recorded. So you can check it out on our website. Right. So 10 minutes, we're just going to do a quick meet and greet. Then we're going to spend 50 minutes at one property, then 50 minutes at the next property, and then hopefully we'll finish on time. Hopefully, we'll see. So who are we? So Volition, we are a real estate investment advisory and realty firm. So what does that actually mean? It means that we're not just realtors. We're much more than realtors. We are a complete solution provider. And what we want to do is we want to be the team who helps you navigate this really, really, really complex world of real estate investing. We want to have your back. We want to hold your hand, and we want to guide you through the whole thing. We also want to provide you everything you need to be successful. But most importantly, I think, is that we figure it out for you. So Toronto is very, very competitive. I get this question almost on a daily basis. Oh, are you sure Toronto still works? Are you sure there's still cash flow in Toronto? It is difficult. It's definitely more difficult than investing in small towns like Windsor or whatever, but it does work. And so we pride ourselves on finding solutions that actually work. We do the research, we do the analysis, but everyone does the research analysis. The most important thing is that we actually synthesize this into actual workable solution and business models that actually work for you in Toronto. So anyway, we've some stats. We've helped people invest in a lot of real estate here in Toronto. We've helped clients generate a lot of wealth and a lot of cash flow here in Toronto, and we've educated a lot of people here in Toronto. That number, I think, is 3,900 investors now. Okay. Why do we feel that we're qualified to talk to you about this? It's because we've done it. We're not these kind of like these gurus who up on YouTube that just whatever. These are actual solutions that work here in Toronto, and we actually hold our portfolio here in Toronto. We've been featured in a bunch of different places, different podcasts, HGTV. We've been tapped by HGTV again this coming week. I think we're going to be putting something together for them again. We're certified real estate investment advisors, and we've won a bunch of awards. Okay. So again, we are a real estate investment advisory and realty firm. So realty is part of what we do. We always get asked, okay, so are we realtors? Yes, we're realtors, but we do more than that. We do advisory. Advisory is really about mentorship, coaching, education. It's really about understanding you and your situation and applying everything that we know to you to come up with a very workable real estate plan, individualized and tailored for you. Then you'll be passed on to investment realty, and that's about execution of that plan that we put forth in the advisory phase. We also have a renovation division where we help guide you through this whole renovation mess of things. So if you need help trying to figure out how to do a legal luxury triplex conversion, you don't know how to navigate the city, don't know how to navigate COA, don't have good architects, don't have good engineers, so on and so forth, we can help you there. We've got a trusted network of contractors as well. And then on the management front, we provide leasing services, and I mentioned earlier, if you were on a bit earlier, that we are currently in a pilot phase for strategically partnering with 2 professional property management firms. So this is us in the Volition team, and this could be you on the Volition team. So we're looking for investor-focused realtors to help service our clients. So if that's of interest to you and you have the experience and the skills and the wherewithal, then please reach out. Bye, Shelby. So Shelby was an integral part of the Volition team for the last 2 years. She made sure that these meetups ran without a hitch. So hopefully today is going to run without her, but we'll see. Fingers crossed. So she's an investor at heart, and she's pledged that she'll still continue to be part of our meetup. So maybe she's here today. I don't even know. Maybe she didn't wake up early enough. But now she has moved on to Broker Bay, helping new brokerages on board onto Broker Bay. So for those of you who've been through the real estate process before, you'll know that you might know that Broker Bay is what has allowed us to book showings very, very easily. And then, hello, Ali Khan. So I actually didn't realize we haven't actually introduced Ali Khan at one of our meetups. So he's been with Volition for the last 6 months already. He was previously a Volition client, and so the reason things are going to run very smoothly and continue business as usual is because he's going to backfill for a lot of Shelby's duties. So hello, Ali Khan, and welcome.
Thank you.
The next thing is just that we get this a lot. What you might not know is that we put a lot of investor education out there, but we actually do a lot of normal stuff too, normal end user stuff, primary residence stuff. That's actually about 40% of our business. So we do get this question a lot. Oh, do you guys do normal stuff too? Do you do? Yes, we do. And we add a lot of value to that process too. Your home is basically usually the biggest asset and the biggest liability that you have, but it's also the most important tool in your investment journey. So we help you make sure it's good, you're making good financial sense and making good financial decisions for your primary residence as well. All right. So yes, we help normal home buyers, and we do listings for normal home buyers and investment properties as well. This is what we aspire to be for you. We want to be in this eraser in your whole really confusing maze of the real estate journey. We want to blaze that trail for you. So this is our mission statement, or kind of like a picture that goes up on our vision board, if you will. And if you are a client and we've missed you for whatever reason, you have access to our private inner circle WhatsApp chat. It's a bunch of people, about 80 or 100 of our clients who are talking about real estate nonstop, to the point where I've had to actually mute it. But anyway, I'm sure other people really, really enjoy it. All right, so yes, Flo, I got your message, and we are on time. So did someone raise their hand? No? Okay.
Oh, it was me. I was just trying to help you with the time check.
Thank you. And we are on time. So this is 11:10. So I'm going to pass this along to Flo and Ming. I think they're on site.
Yes, as you can tell by our beanies, I'm just going to do video and sound check. Can you guys see us and hear us okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So we are on site. You're going to see what it's going to look like. I will say the things that we do for you. Ming and I are sitting in a place with no heat, some electricity, some light, and no facilities. So one of the selling points of being Little Italy is that we're 5-minute walk from Starbucks. So if Ming or I disappear for a few minutes, you'll know why. So thanks for joining us today on the Property Spotlight. Matt, if you go back for a sec, because I know people will read and ignore what I have to say. back.
Sure.
The other
Okay.
back.
Sorry. Yeah.
So I'll just keep talking. And so, are you trying to press something?
Yeah, Matt, is the video a lock to you right now,
Oh yeah.
or is it just
I will spotlight you.
awesome?
You're right.
Yeah.
Oh, there
There
we
you-
go. Oh wow, we look like we are on a construction site. So
We're totally.
we got our beanie hats on too. So first off, I want to thank everybody for joining, and especially our clients who are on today as well, and the generous offer / acceptance properties.
You might need to speak a little bit louder or get a little bit closer to the mic.
Yeah.
Okay, is this better? It's physically closer.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Yeah, and let us know anytime during the tour if the sound doesn't check out, because we'll be walking around holding the camera as well. So we're thanking the clients for letting us use their properties to showcase the tour, and we all share the value of helping each other learn and educate ourselves. So I will call out that as you get questions, I'll kind of help log them, but out of respect for their privacy, we are going to keep some information high level because these are actual properties, not just tastings and pro formas.
Sorry, a bit louder.
Still? Okay. I'm gonna lean in and shout at it. So, okay. Oh, now it's just panning on my face.
Yeah.
Great. Means like it's all you for this part. So the intention for today, and Matt, is this better for sound?
Yeah, could be better. Why don't you get like really close?
And all that, but it's okay. Anyway, I just saw a Ring doorbell notification. No, it's all good. So the intention for today actually is 3 things: illustrating why we keep telling people if you have questions or want to dive deeper, go into advisory. Because one of the things I'd like you guys to take away is to understand how the is going to help you be successful in real estate investing. The second is actually to tour and go through it and see what construction looks like at the very start of our project and at the end of the project. And then the third, understand the trade-offs that are involved in real estate investments, which translate to other aspects of our life as well. So on to the next slide. I'm going to be looking back and up because I'm looking at the slide on my screen.
Okay. You're still cutting out. Your sound's still cutting out a little bit. So louder.
Okay.
Maybe closer.
I can't go any closer. I wonder if I should do it from my laptop for the audio, but will that do an echo with?
I'll mute this then.
Okay. One sec, guys. I'm going to log in on my laptop.
Okay, why don't you just get us started while she logs in, Ming?
Sure. I can take you through the physical property a little bit then while we're. So
So
you see,
computer,
you can see here.
Okay, I gotta mute someone. Sorry,
Yeah.
if who's speaking? I'm trying to. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead, Ming. I'll figure out who's speaking and mute them.
Cool. So we're here at a property that we have demoed ish. Oh, I'm gonna.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm.
Okay.
Here, let me try this.
Mute your head and look. Okay, great. Okay, we'll have Flo go through, and I'll mute this side then.
Okay, is the sound better?
Way better.
Do you hear an echo though? Because I hear.
No.
Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna just go with this, and I'll just ask Matt to advance the slides because now I'm doing it in front of my laptop. So for the highlights of this particular property, thinking about advisory and why we start with certain objectives. There's, we sat down with clients, we discussed what they were, and as we started looking at what we thought were the right properties, the right areas, we were able to calibrate what their goals are for the project. And there's 2 that really stand out. The first is to maximize equity takeout. And one thing I've called out in blue here is that there is a direct trade-off with the cash flow. You'll see in the pro forma that we're doing that, the more money that you take out, the higher the mortgage payment is going to be. But that ties into their overall objective about doing a BRRRR and ideally repeat every couple of years in the accumulation stage. The second thing here I'll call here is what the plan results in coming out of advisory. I know many of you have talked to Matt and Ming and figured out what it was going to look like in terms of the purchase, the acquisition, how much rental you want to do or none at all. And what we're hoping to illustrate today is for something like this to support the BRRRR and to do that equity takeout, it would be a rental project with massive upside potential, which this one is. And so where we landed after looking at some properties and neighborhoods is very specific target.
premium West End neighborhoods with high supported ARVs and to maximize the density in order to maximize rents and then the eventual refinance. So density can mean a couple of things, maximizing the number of bedrooms or dens or living spaces, or the number of units in a property as well. So on to the next slide. So with this property that we're sitting in right now, this one was one of those drop everything and run there sort of properties. And we did that, I think, on a Friday. And there's a few characteristics that we really liked about it. One is that it has a really wide lot for a semi that has a lot more potential to have different bedroom configurations. On the third floor, there's also, as you're going to see later, an excellent ceiling height. There's a lot of second and a half or third stories that have a bit of a, roof that looks like this, or one that has a pretty low ceiling that you can't do very much with. Matt, stop jumping. You're getting to the pictures. And so it makes it a viable unit, which is actually what it currently is. The other thing about this is that this is a bit of a unicorn. There's 3 self-contained units listed in the MPAC report. And so what that means is there's official documentation that you can count the rents for all 3 units for mortgage qualification. And for us, we are going to committee of adjustments to say that, hey, historically, back in, I think, 1980 something, it has been approved as COA, grandfathered as 3 units. And you'll see in the picture on the right there with the highlight, the basement is not to be used for human habitation. And this is from the original documentation that we had there. But our goal is to make it fit for human habitation. You might not agree when you see the video at the bottom, but that's our goal. And so with these clients, we ran through a few things. I will start by saying, for those who know me and have seen my pro formas and how I analyze things, I'm very conservative. So what you're looking at today is me be like, if I were to invest in it myself, what kind of things would I think about in the numbers that I would use? The first option with the $1 sign is to keep the original configuration, which is a main and basement as 1 unit. The second floor as a second unit, and then third floor as another unit. So that's a single dollar sign or on the lower end of the budget if they were to do that reno. And it'd be mainly cosmetic in nature, looking at upgrading the systems or maybe just having 1 HVAC system to power the whole house and doing some exterior insulation as well. The second is a middle ground option where you can reconfigure the units. And what we find, especially in this area, is that it's really, people do like the larger properties that merge the second and third floors. And that could be a 3-bed, 2-bath or 2.5 bath. And that tends to draw, families or people that like maybe even couples that want to work from home space that are willing to pay the premium rent to have that space with a lot of light and a lot of area to move around in as well. The third option is the one that we're actually going with. So kudos to these clients. It's a go big or go home kind of exercise here. And to add 1 additional legal unit to create a 4-plex. So that's the one that is the $3 sign option that we're going through right now. So on to the next slide. So this is the before demo. This is not what you see behind us right now, because we have completed the interior, I think we call it the selective interior demolition of the property. And what that means is we've left the interior freestanding walls up because we don't have a permit for that yet. Before demo, you can see the pink kitchen, which I think is very cute and very retro, the 3rd floor kitchen, and you can see the ceiling height of what it looked like before. The second with the emoji there with the green sort of felt or carpeted walls is something that I'm championing as a sunroom. And there's a couple options that could look, and this is where we were going to stick the bad children, actually. and this is one of those where, because the area is grandfathered in, you could either, for cost savings, turn it into a porch or a deck, or the preferred option is to keep the gross floor area, because we have that grandfathered in, and we can keep it as interior space with a few refinements. And then the bottom is just your good old 80s kitchen. So yeah, on to the next slide. Okay, so the project pro forma. So this is one where, when we tie it back to advisory and client objectives, people have different objectives when it comes to real estate investing. And what I've done is model a couple of different options. We went through the same financials with the clients, which helped inform the renovation decisions. So the purchase price is around 1.7, initial investment is about 414, 20% down payment plus the closing costs. I'm sure someone's asking whether this is recorded and if the slide will be provided, and they are, which is why I'm running through the numbers fairly quickly because people can digest it after. Rental cost, we put HST on it because the budget we have is 550, and then you can see when you add HST, it's like, oh wow, 621, and that's something we want to account for as well. Estimated ARV, when I ran this probably a few months ago, I was very comfortable with the 285. To be honest, the financial support probably closer to 3. But again, very cautious. We work with these target numbers, and if it ends up even better, then that's great. The estimated equity takeout, I modeled it at 70 and 80% LTV because this is where there is a divergence on how people might want to approach it. We see the gray call out there and say, oh, wow, if I get a free rental if I have $1 million equity takeout after refinance, you can have a free rental and my investment back. And that's amazing. But when you see and I put the weight, because at 70% loan to value, there's that impact on cash flow that you're going to see in the next couple of slides. Bing, if there's anything you want to add or?
No, you're doing an awesome job, Flo. You should be a presenter all the time.
Yeah, I know. I just got back from vacation for everybody's knowledge, so I don't know why I'm here drinking coffee. I know why, but thanks for the kudos there. So yes, next slide. Thanks, Matt. So what we have at the top of this table here is the projected rents, and what we do is look at historical rents, what properties have leased for, and the configurations that we're contemplating is the main basement and second floor. They're going to be 2 beds, 1 bath. With the second floor, you're going to see the sunroom that we're going to try to preserve if the budget allows, and the respective rents of each of the units. The third floor is a little bit smaller. I think it's 500 something square feet. So it would be a 1 bed, 1 bath with a total monthly rent of $9,500. The mortgage, property tax, hydro, gas, utilities, and insurance, they total to about $10,000. And so when you look at the bottom of the table, there's 2 key metrics. And Matt has designed a beautiful pro forma template that has way more numbers than this. The executive summary on the 80% loan to value, or taking most of the money back out in a mortgage, is the net investment is only $122,000. And when you think about that for a property that is approaching $3 million in market value after, it's incredible. On the other hand, if you look at the next slide, man, there we go. Awesome. They look the same except for this bubble. And I would encourage you guys to think about it when you look through the slide is which option as an investor would you prefer? Because in this scenario, you're leaving more of the equity in the property. Rents are the same, expenses are the same other than the mortgage, but you're basically cash flow neutral at a whopping $87 a month. And the net investment though goes up to 426 back from, I think, Matt, keep me honest, the previous slide was about 120 some odd thousand.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. So again, something to think about as an investor is this is the kind of due diligence and that we conduct with clients during advisory to make them think about, well, everything's a trade-off. So which is it that you want? And the nice thing about this project is you don't have to decide until the end. And then the other asterisk is it also depends on what the bank wants to lend you. So that's also something we discuss in depth with our clients, saying, well, if the bank will only allow you 70% LTV, you could then refinance a few years later after equity pay down, or there's a whole bunch of other options. But we wanted to model the range of possibilities for this project before we went and swung the hammers and started taking out all the stuff. On to the next slide.
So it's a tour now.
Yep, over to Ming for the live tour.
Okay, give me just 2 minutes. I'm going to reconfigure the camera so that way you guys can see me well.
Okay, so I'll just interject here then while Ming's getting set up. So on top of this, and again, this is some of the value of advisory, is that with a deep understanding of real estate, the mechanisms through which you build wealth in real estate, and our experience and expertise, we can go through various options with you. So what you're seeing here, this is just kind of standard financing, right? At 80% LTV, 70% LTV, 2.5%, 30-year AM, probably a variable mortgage, but there's more to it. And so if you recall back to our February meetup about a month and a half ago, we had Hugo here, and Hugo and I had been kind of noodling on this idea that, okay, as prices keep on going up, but rents are a little bit stagnant, how do we solve this problem with cash flow? So one of the things that if you recall back, if you were there, one of the things we talked about was reconfiguring our financing to boost cash flow. Again, you don't get something for nothing, so it's a trade-off. And that trade-off may be that you're now taking a large portion of your 80% mortgage, let's say, and separating into two segments. There could be a 65% HELOC and a 15% mortgage segment. The beauty of that is on the HELOC side, HELOCs allow you to just pay interest, no principal pay down. Yes, it's a little bit higher on the interest front, probably prime plus half instead of prime minus whatever, but you don't pay down principal. And the value there is that even on a standard property for Volition is a $1.4 million triplex, $5,700 in rent, and cash flow is about $500. You can, just by reconfiguring the financing on that, you can boost cash flow by about $1,000. Again, there's a trade-off. That trade-off is you're not paying down principal then. Is that okay for you, right? We can answer that for you, but what we can do through advisory is understand what's important to you and then present options or work towards options that make sense for you in your context according to your goals. So for example, when we look at something like this, you might freak out and go, oh my God, this is negative cash flow, right? At 80% loan to value, or this is neutral cash flow at 70% loan to value. That is not kind of the end story. There still might be more to it where, we could configure this maybe with the larger HELOC segment and boost cash flow at the expense of higher interest on the HELOC front and not paying down principal, right? But again, this is just because we understand real estate at a very, very deep level. So this allows us to sort of play with those levers, fine tune those dials to make it a viable project for you. So with that in mind, I'll pass that along now back to these guys. I'm going to stop sharing. I think that's what I need to do so that we can follow Ming and Flo. All right.
Okay, so you guys see us okay?
Yep.
You hear us okay?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to turn the camera around so you don't have to look at my face during this tour. I want to give you guys, there's two things really for us to go through. One is what made us drive this place as a purchase decision, and two, what are the plans for the property? So let's start with why even choose this particular property. So location aside, this is already, as Flo explained, in a primo location within Toronto. We're in the Little Italy neighborhood, one of the best neighborhoods here, good rents, whatnot. But let's talk about the specific property. So when we look at these places, we're always looking for the quote unquote bones of the property. But what does that mean? So we're looking for things that we know are going to be very difficult or expensive for us to change and for this property to have those. So a couple of things. First is ceiling height. I'll use myself as an example here. I don't know if you can see, I'm about 5'7", my reach, who knows? But we're talking about 9-10 foot ceilings here. So that's immediately, a very nice thing to have. Changing ceiling heights, very expensive thing, difficult thing to do. Next thing is light through here. I'm not sure if it's coming across, but we have a lot of light in this property. Even though we are under construction right now and everything is gross and dusty, the place is actually still pretty well lit. We've got a couple of lights on in here just to help with the video. The next thing that we really cared about was, because we're doing legal separation here, we actually don't want a house where we're keeping much if anything, because to create the fire separation, we may have to bring down ceilings. We may have to, change the fire separation between the units to bring it up to current standards. So to do all these things, we're gonna have to tear them out anyway. So we don't want to have a house that has finishes that we're intending to keep. And the last thing is really, we're looking for volume, right? We need space, because if we start getting into extensions, top ups, things like that, we start getting into, more expensive renos that could potentially, break the business model. We're trying to keep the rental budget, as tight as possible. So let's take a look through this. So starting at the front, what I'll do is I'll start at the front of the property. So you would come in, and then I'll stop trying to do shaky cam here. So this is the main entrance. This vestibule remains. So There's this little lobby area because this was originally a multifamily property, just not done very well. This will be the ground floor entrance here, and this will be the entrance up to the upper units. So let's start with the ground floor. So you come through here. We've got quite a bit of width here, but what we will be doing is we'll have one bedroom up here as you come in through the left, taking advantage of the light that we have here. And then something, if you've been a client of ours on tours of ours, I talk a lot about slotting bathrooms where we don't need any light because you don't really need a window in a bathroom. And windows are so precious in these multifamily units. So we'll be having a bathroom roughly in this area here, right? Kind of between these studs as they stand now. So a large bedroom, a bathroom. Then we have this big open kitchen, living dining area. So Flo, keep me honest here. I think the kitchen is basically slotted to come down through here.
Yeah, it's gonna be, I'll show you this goes through the top. It'll be L-shaped from here to the right,
Right.
and
Okay.
then optional island.
Okay.
So
Perfect.
U-shape.
And the reason that we're doing a split bedroom design as opposed to having the bedrooms kind of stacked against each other is because we want to be able to have access to the rear. When you're designing floor plans, and hopefully you've got an architect with this kind of experience or you're working with us, you want to make sure that you have common area access to the exterior. A lot of these floor plans are kind of created where you're walking to someone's bedroom to get to your deck, or you're walking to someone's bedroom to get outside, and that's obviously not ideal. This space at the back, so we've gone through one bedroom. We talked about the kitchen common area. This was a barrier-free bathroom at one point. And you can see there's this like strange box over here. Well, if you look to this side, we actually have an enclosed stairwell down to the basement. And when we came through here, I think if you come through it initially, it's not immediately apparent how to lay this place out. You look at this existing configuration, I don't know if you guys can tell, it's like, okay, I'll have one bedroom over there, one bedroom over here, and I may end up with a really tiny common area. But one of the things I think that is our strength at Volition is we said, okay, we'll have one bedroom over there, but we can actually repurpose this stairwell. There's no reason this needs to stay as a stairwell. We can actually reframe the bottom here, rejoist it, close it up, and turn this entire area into another bedroom. So now we've gone from a squished 2-bedroom layout to actually quite a generous space for 2 bedrooms. So this whole area here will be flattened out. That door will be removed. We're going to have a 2-bedroom configuration over there. Okay, anything that...
I think the only thing that I would add is that always think about where the tenant is going to sit along with the TV. So I remember having an argument with the architect about this, and I think where we landed is kind of where I'm standing now. Okay, move a little couch, just making sure we have a wall or some sort of surface for the TV as well.
Mhm.
And then just to go back to the kitchen design, the bar will probably be right around.
Sorry, we're losing Flo's voice.
Yeah, the audio is yeah. So the kitchen would be right around where the fan is towards the right. Just to give you guys a sense of the kitchen peninsula or island option. I think. Yeah. So the first.
Cool. Did anybody ask any questions? I can't really see if there's questions coming through, but I will rely on somebody from the Volition team to tell me if I am to answer questions.
We're gonna do Q&A at the end.
Okay, cool. So now I'm walking down to the basement, and that was actually much more frightening. If our clients are on the line, they're probably laughing. It's much more frightening before demolition. It looks much, I mean, it's just an empty basement now. Okay, so let's get down here. So a couple of things. Is the video quality okay? Can you guys see? It's quite dark down here. There's no lighting. Okay,
Yep.
Great.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to start at the front because this is, again, where some of the creative thinking has come in on this particular property. So if we close up that stairwell at the rear, we lose our access to the basement. So what do? What we're considering in this property is actually opening up this area to allow for front basement entrance, right? And you have to make sure that you're doing this in the right neighborhoods with the right architects, because this is not something you can simply willy-nilly do on any project. you may have to go to committee of adjustments for this. And if you do, then you're up against, you're looking for a variance to do this. So it's not always possible to create a front entrance, but that's what our intention is for this property. So I think it's on the left side.
Left side.
Left side.
I'm trying
Okay.
to turn it
Yeah.
down.
We're trying to get oriented with the floor plans. So basically, this area here, we'll have a walk down into the property. Is it this side? This side.
That side, yeah, on
Yeah.
the right.
Sorry, guys, because I was like, it doesn't make sense because we have our patio on this side. So sorry, this window gets repurposed. This is where the walkthrough would come down. So you'll actually be entering down and into the property underneath the porch area. So we still keep the window here. So that way, this area, I believe, is going to be
a closet slash mechanical tool that way. And we're going to block up the window.
okay.
I
Yeah.
can't hear Flo.
So yeah, no worries, no
Okay,
worries. So the whole front is basically common area through here, right? We keep this window. This window is basically for light into this common area. And you can actually see like the light is pretty decent. It's just like when the surfaces are all dark, it sucks away all the light. So we have this light coming in through here. A couple of things to note: the windows are big, and they're above grade. These are, again, things that when we're looking at basements, we're looking for, because I can't easily, or I don't want to use the word easy, cheaply make this window much larger, right? I can create window wells and dig down, but window wells aren't a reliable way of me expanding the size of a window, because this window is fine because it's front of the house facing. But this window on the side, for example, I can't make that appreciably bigger because I'm going to eat into the side walkway that we have on the house right now. And, you obviously have a big hole in the middle of your walkway. So this window remains. We have dig down through here. So basically a new front entrance into the basement unit. We've got a new door that will be existing here. The window itself over there gets closed up. So we're closing it up because we want to steal it for something else. If you're familiar with this kind of construction, you can close up and move windows, but creating a new window sometimes isn't allowed. It depends on your particular property. So in this property, we can't just simply add another window, but we do want a window at the back. So what we're doing is we are closing this up, and then we're going to steal it and use it further at the back. So just to keep you guys oriented, we're coming through the front. All this is going to be kitchen common area. So we'll have a kitchen along this side, and then common area through here. So I'll continue stepping back. Around where Florence is, this is the bedroom. So we're going to have another bedroom here where this wonderful single toilet is.
And then the window is going to be relocated here.
That's, yeah, exactly. So we have a window over here relocated for the bedroom. So we're required to have a window per bedroom and a window for the common area. So we'll have a window here for the bedroom. There'll be a bathroom at the back here where that window is over here. And then we'll have this area, because remember, we are changing it above this, I guess, old cold storage room. This comes down and this turns into the new second bedroom. So we've got all the square footage we need. A couple of notes for people. You might be wondering what all these random holes are. They're quite deep. You probably can't tell in the video. I would stick my foot down here for science, but you can see it, like it's actually quite far down. What we were doing here is we're testing for slab depth and to look for footings. So, when you're doing basement renovations, it's not simply, it can be, I guess, simply just coming in and putting up some drywall. Because we're looking to create all legal units, we want to understand what the potential of each place is. Also, this is an older property, right? We wanted to check the drains and to see, what state they were in. We actually have one of the broken drains to show. So if you're unfamiliar, drains of a certain vintage were actually made out of like terracotta. And so you can see the color there. It's like it's clay, and it's collapsed.
Yeah.
Right, we've got a big hole. So it's not very functional as a drain. If if somebody's using this, it's just going to spill,
Yeah,
the contents of your sewage into your basement. So the drains will need to be updated and replaced here as well. And this brings me to another point. When you're budgeting for projects, it's really important to make sure that you have contingency, because construction is not an if, it's a when you have to dip into contingency. There's always something unplanned for, something you discover along the way. And you can't just leave it. Like you cannot leave a broken pipe like that. There's no point in doing the renovation on a property only to have your sewage not work properly. So,
can I add a couple of or can I ask a couple of things?
Yeah.
Okay, so just so we're clear, I'm not sure that this initially came out, but the stage of the project is such that architect has been engaged, plans have been drawn up. So you're actually, when you're saying, oh, kitchen is going to go here, this is not just hypothetical. This is not just like, oh, you, Ming, and Flo on site think that this is a great place for the kitchen. These are actually as per architectural plans, correct?
Yeah. So to talk through that a little bit more, when we are buying a place, obviously we don't have the luxury of time to engage an architect. So that's kind of like the Volition expertise. We come in, we look at the property through those investor eyes, we figure out roughly how we're going to do things. Once we close on the property, we engage an architect, or we can even engage the architect, during the closing period, to help create what the plans of the property are like. We often need surveys and in-house measurements and things like that. So there's some restrictions around how early we can start, but definitely once we have closed on the property and the property's ours, we can go through and engage the architects, have these plans drawn.
Cool. Yeah. So it's a combination of a couple of things I just want to call out here. So we do what we can before close to minimize our downtime, right? So those things are like surveys. Surveys can take anywhere from like up to 4 to 6 weeks now. Is that right?
6 weeks.
Yeah, 6 weeks.
6 weeks, and it depends on if the seller lets you.
Yeah.
Right? They could be a pain in the butt and just not let you do a survey on the property. It hasn't stopped us. Most times they are open to it, but it's not a guarantee.
Yeah, and and then we try to get as much done. We line up everything. We try to do as much demo upon close as possible. So because we really want to get behind those walls to see what we're dealing with, right?
Yeah, exactly. So this demo that we've done here is, I guess you would call this it's a non-permitted demo. So all the walls have remained. We're basically just taking off the cosmetic portions of the property, which is quite a bit, right? Like you can take out kitchens, bathrooms, you can disconnect water, you can take out the floors. It's really important for us to know this because with the drywall in, we can only make certain assumptions about the property. One of the assumptions we had while here on the main floor was that this was some sort of structural wall. We took it out and it was this large opening, and the architect and ourselves were like, oh, that's not what we thought it was going to be at all. And there's some remaining brick behind. So, you can only really know what you're dealing with once the house is naked.
Yeah, for sure. And then I don't know if you want to go back downstairs just to do a time check. You got about 16 more minutes to go through the rest. But down in the basement, I want to talk about the slab. I want to ask you something about the slab again. Do you want to go down to the basement again?
Yeah, let me see if we can answer the question while we make our way.
Okay, so you were breaking up the slab, and why don't you talk a little bit about how breaking up the slab, checking the footings to see how far down, to try to sometimes gain an extra 6 inches.
Yeah, so all these homes, when they were originally built, those basements, predate the use of concrete. So they were literally dirt floors when the homes were first built. And at some point, somebody poured concrete to make it a little more usable as a space for storage. Now, that means many things, because somebody could have just poured a very thin layer of concrete and been done with it, or somebody could have poured a massively thick layer of concrete and be done with it. So you don't really know how thick your slab is in some of these old homes. So one of the things we do is to check, because you can break up and re-pour the basement slab to get a couple more inches, depending on how thick it is, in ceiling height without the huge cost of underpinning. It's a bit of a roll of the dice because you just don't know how big it's going to be. So when you're planning these renovations out, don't count on your slab to be 6 inches thick. It may only be like half an inch if it's done very poorly. So, but it is something to explore. Obviously, you can't dig holes until after you've closed. You can then dig a couple holes to see what the thickness of the slab is.
Yeah, so it's one of those things we can garner additional value without having to incur massive costs sometimes.
Yeah, I would say caveat that it doesn't happen very often, and oftentimes the architect would just say just underpin. So I don't want people thinking that it's a sure thing either.
For sure. There's a question that I think I'm just going to ask really quickly. What's the ceiling height in the basement currently?
I remember, I think in certain parts closer to 7 feet,
Yeah,
but there's
pretty good.
ones in the middle of the basement that we'll have to address as part of the ceiling height. That is lower than 6'5", which is the minimum required for legal secondary suite.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So now you're up on the second floor.
Well, hang on, before we do that, I just want to do a time check. It is 11:47. I know we said we go into noon, so either at this point I give up and we just do the tour as the time plays out, and if people need to drop off, they drop off. And it'll be recorded after, or we try to get through the next 10-15 minutes with both floors and questions.
Yeah, just go.
Okay.
Let's go through this floor then. So very quickly here, we've got the interior volume, which I said is something that was very important to us when we were looking at this house. Also, the staircase layout. Depending on how the staircases are laid out, it can be difficult or easy to have units divided. Oftentimes, actually, a middle staircase layout like this makes it difficult, but the house has enough width that we're able to work around it. So, as we're out looking at properties, this is one of the things that you'll see myself and the team look for is how can we actually get access to each of these units? Okay, so what we have here is there will be an entrance roughly around where our lovely model is standing. That's where the unit is, and then third floor is up there. The front of the property here is going to be our kitchen living space. So in particular, I'll draw it with my finger over here. We've got a kitchen that will be roughly here, kind of in an L shape, and then right now we've got some like little banquettes, built-ins on this side. And then we've got our living space over on this side. And that actually was formerly the kitchen. Yeah. So yeah, roughly where Florence is standing would be where the couch is. Again, you can see where the ceiling height is. The ceiling heights are quite good in here. Flo's like what, 5 even? Really? I thought you were taller than that. So attitude. If it's attitude, Flo's got a 7-foot attitude. So anyway, but we're probably looking at over 8 feet, maybe 9-foot ceiling in here. Because sometimes you get great first floors and then the rest of the floors kind of suck in terms of ceiling height, but we've got quite a bit of ceiling height here. Okay, so moving on from the common space, we're actually keeping a similar configuration in the back of the property. So we're going to have a bedroom on this side, a bedroom on this side, and then this area turns into a bathroom. So it'll be a slight change, kind of in the width, but it's roughly similar, this one. Obviously, that's too small to be a bedroom right now, so that gets expanded and the bathroom gets compressed a bit. And then we have this bonus space, as Florence was saying earlier, it's the bad kid space. So you'll see a lot of these in Toronto homes as well. They're basically covered porches. I won't go step on it because I might die. But it's a tin floor here. It looks ghetto now. It looked ghetto before, but take square footage, right? It's quite rare. It is possible. It's quite rare that the city's going to ask us to remove something like this. Likely, this is all going to be grandfathered through. This gets verified when we go through the process of reviewing previously submitted permits. Obviously, you don't have any of that time when you're looking to buy a property, but the more square footage you're dealing with day one, the better chance of it all remaining as you do your renovations. We'll have to, redo this, the roof here as well. But we get to keep this extra sunroom space for whoever is living in this particular bedroom over here.
Actually, I'm the audio works, so I can make one comment about the roof that's there. When we work on projects, we try to minimize the budget for our clients, right? So there's a choice. I mean, you can see it's quite slopey, like it's got low headroom there. It is a choice to actually just do the minimum and keep the existing structure and keep it low. We are looking at the option of raising the ceiling height on this, and you'll see when we get to the third floor, turning it into the base of the deck. But this is where, construction budgets, we try to be mindful of what it is, because this is perfectly feasible, but we'll have to draw the plans up and scale back. So when I think about the intention for the day, it's stuff like this, right? Do we keep the low headroom in the sunroom and still perfectly usable, or do we try to raise the height on this and then add that deck on the third story of this?
Okay.
Oh, deck.
Oh, yes. Deck.
Decks.
Speaking of decks, the intention is to create an additional outdoor space. Not as ideal, right? Because it's coming through a bedroom, but the way we've laid it out, there's kind of no other choice. We need to have the common areas at the front because of the access through that stairwell, and we're going to have a deck out here. That said, when we originally modeled this place, we didn't model it as 4 units. We modeled it as 3 units. It's more conservative. We know it's a triplex already, so it's kind of the, I don't like to use the word guaranteed, but the more sure solution. These accommodations and changes we're making now are because we're adding a 4th unit. So we need to create access up the stairs to the next unit. Okay, let's go up to the next unit then.
Yeah, you got 7 minutes, and don't worry about the questions. There's not a lot, so don't worry. We keep on going.
So in depth on detail. So right here is actually where the space, the entrance to the top unit will be. So you have a door here, and you come in through this the little vestibule. You come up the stairs. And we're in.
You want to pause about the skylight that we may add in?
Oh yeah, I'll do it. I'll go to the top then. Okay. So then we come up here to the top unit. And as Florence alluded to earlier on, top units, really good ceiling heights. We'll use our 5-foot measure here. You can see we've got really good ceiling, which is rare in a third floor. A lot of times they are usually converted attics, so they're not very high. We have a skylight coming in here to the stairwell. This is something we, if you've got the budget, we'd like to really do. It adds a lot of natural light into the property. We have a window there, also not super common, but the more light we can add into this space, the better. The other thing we're doing is this area will be opened up. So this door disappears, and it even though it's not usable space, it makes the property feel a lot larger, because as you're coming in now, it feels like that entire stairwell is part of the unit. And our top units, we try to make as nice as possible, every unit above grade, because that's where you're going to get your best rents. Okay, floor plans. So through here, bedroom. This was a bedroom before, so no major change there. As we come across from the front of the house to the rear, we'll have a bathroom slotted in here. Again, I like to slot my bathrooms where we don't have any windows. This is a semi, by the way, so that's the common wall. So our bathroom will go in here, and then turning around here, we'll have a large open plan space where we'll have kitchen. I think our mechanicals are going to be tucked in underneath there.
Yeah, we're gonna try, right?
Yeah.
Because of the low headroom here.
So we got low headroom here. You notice a slope roof. So we'll have our mechanicals tucked in there. We'll have a kitchen on this side, and then we have our living, dining area across the back. Now, something else that we're looking to take advantage of is this space out the rear, where we're hoping to, depending budget-wise, bring this down to be a walkout patio for some outdoor space for our tenants. We will be required at some point, in some capacity, to provide some outdoor space because we need to provide a fire refuge, but how that looks exactly is still to be determined.
And this is and this is grandfathered in as well. So I think it actually would count depending on how it goes up.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. This strange little walkout here to this really mini deck. I don't think the video does justice as to how tiny that deck is, but that can be grandfathered in. That's what our hope is. Okay. Any other questions then about this property before we go on to the next?
Not really. Alikhan, was there anything that wasn't answered?
Yeah, I think there's one about the existing pipe, the damaged pipe. Did you go looking for that broken pipe, or was it already exposed? Good question.
It wasn't already exposed. We did go looking for it. We kind of tied two things together. We did the looking for the slab depth and footings, and we don't know where the pipes are running. It's kind of a bit of a happy coincidence that we dug where the pipes are and saw that the pipes are broken. So now we also know that we need to replace those pipes. It is something to go looking for, though. If you are doing basement construction, I highly recommend scoping your drains to see what you're in for, right? Because if you're going to do basement work, you might as well fix your drains at the same time.
Cool. And there was a question. So there's no plan to underpin here, obviously, right? Because we already got some good ceiling height, correct?
That's the hope.
That's the hope.
That's the hope.
Underpinning is not a cheap proposition. So
Yeah, because is underpinning or benching part of the reno scope for 621,000 so far?
No, it is not.
So benching nor underpinning. So that's the hope is that that the ceiling height is sufficient for approvals.
Yeah, and if you the ceiling heights will be sufficient for approvals. Those who are familiar with construction costs are probably like, "Whoa, this is an expensive renovation," and it is. Like, it's a big house. There's a lot of stuff we're going through, and construction prices have gone up a lot. So if the last major renovation you did was like a year or two ago, this is probably 150,000.
Your audio's cutting out.
No. Okay.
Let me go on
Yeah.
Zoom and then
We're going to switch now off my phone, and we're going to switch to Florence's laptop.
Okay, cool. So while you're doing that, there's a question here. How tricky or big an effort is it to deal with? This will be a flow special. Knob and tube, but more importantly, asbestos when you open up the walls, because I'm assuming you don't know that asbestos is there. So is it part of your contingency? So Flo, do you want to answer the asbestos question?
Flo will answer it in 2 minutes once she's logged in.
Okay. I'll give some context.
My coffee, which was supposed to be steep tea, but it's now coffee apparently.
Anyway, it's Flo's doing a renovation for herself, and what happened with the asbestos?
Oh, there's asbestos here too, right? I think there's no shortage of asbestos. Let me put it in the old city.
Asbestos is everywhere.
Asbestos is everywhere. So
But it's not so like tragic, I think, as people think it is. Because I think if you're unfamiliar with construction or asbestos abatement, you like hear the word and you're like, oh my God, like it's like this, it's like cancer for the house. But the reality is it's depending on the kind of asbestos abatement you're looking at. Pricing can vary from like, $1,000. I mean, and then the sky's the limit depending on how bad it is. But it can be a relatively small thing depending on how much you're dealing with and where it is. You can give a bit of context, I guess, around.
Yeah, I can give a bit of context. So this house is now asbestos free. This is why Ming and I are cool hanging out here, sucking in all the construction dust. This is actually one of the reasons why we do exploratory demo first. And with this, we use a proper demo company that is licensed to handle asbestos remediation. So for this particular project, what we did was actually bring an expert in, go through and identify potential areas and take samples to test at a lab. This is the proper way to do things. I know of many people that just go, I'm going to put on these gloves and just take off the pipe wrap around the pipe. And at some point, I think Ming, at some point in our lives, we would do a construction meetup. And so we can talk about asbestos then. But what it means is that there's also different levels and therefore severity and process to remove asbestos. So here it was only level 1 and 2, which is relatively straightforward to remove with the proper precautions and disposal. Level 3, so I'm going to switch gears on why Matt was making fun of me in my own property where we're doing a renovation right now. We had a ton of asbestos and a lot of it was level 3. And so what level 3 is when you look at the walls and there's like all these swirly bumpy bits, that's a really good sign that there's asbestos in there. And the bumpiness is so embedded that when you try to take off the wall off the lath and plaster, which is kind of, I don't know, Ming can turn the camera a bit to show the lath and plaster for those that have not seen what that structure looks like.
Not drywall, bits of
Horsehair, like
horsehair,
concrete cement stuff, random bits of whatever, but horsehair is definitely something to look for. I mean, just to give you guys a sense of vintage of this house in mind, it's like 1930s, 1940s. And so with that, just kind of assume there's asbestos, but for ours, level 3 means when they're taking off the drywall, the dust will come off the swirly, bumpy bits and become very hazardous to actually breathe in. So that level removal needs a lot more care. And for our house, it ran about 10,000 just for asbestos removal alone. So this is what Ming is talking about with contingencies and construction. And for those of who work with us as clients, they'll know we spend more time saying, don't spend money on this yet, or in the plans that we're drawing up, have opportunities to scale back or defer things like that deck or the sunroom roof if we need to cut back on budget based on what we find.
Cool. Thank you. I think we are done over there.
I think there's just one more question.
Oh, there is?
Sorry.
Okay.
How tricky, I don't know if Brian was trying to answer it as well, but how tricky, big effort is it?
Unfortunately, Flo's laptop just died. So we're just gonna give us 2 minutes to plug it back, find a charge for it.
Are you talking about the knob and tube and asbestos question? Yeah, that's what they were just answering.
Yeah, no, okay, yeah. But just the electrical part of it, is there any component with that or?
Knob and tube?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just answer it. So knob and tube, there's a good chance that there's knob and tube, at least partially through the house. You're going to...
Yeah, so before Matt goes in and tells things that are not budgeted for in the budget, I thought I would chime in. Yes, knob and tube be expected to have, so that would include things like, it's basically a full gut where there's a rewire of the house. Pretty much, plumbing very much likely needs to be replaced. What else on the... Yeah, insulation is a point of debate, right? And that's one thing the architect asked us. He's like, well, you guys should insulate the exterior, but technically you don't have to. And maybe Ming can chime in why.
Yeah, so with insulation, technically you don't need to do anything. What you have to do is if there's an existing condition, you can't leave it worse than where it is, right? So if you need to, if you're doing a wall, you can't take out insulation from there, or if you're putting in a brand new wall that didn't exist before, a brand new exterior wall, then it has to be to current code. So I don't know if that answers the question, because I actually didn't hear the question. So
yeah,
it's more about like what does this renew include if it doesn't include like under prevention.
Yeah, no, it's fine. You have to expect knob and tube in these places, and you're redoing electrical for the most part anyway. Okay, cool. We're gonna move on to the next one. So I'm just gonna steal the screen. Okay, so go ahead. I'm really not driving. I'm just doing slides.
I'm gonna try to look both ways. And Matt, it's not the video is or the pinning or whatever is. Oh, because we're not on. Sorry, my laptop. Oh yeah. So I'm gonna look both ways. I'm gonna just look at the slides. I'm squinting. That's why. So the next property is something quite different on the other end of town. It's a duplex on a Danforth and a laneway suite. So we just toured the start of we just toured the start of our project, and now what we're looking at is the end of the project actually. So so over to the next slide. Okay. So for this one, we go back to advisory, and I think this actually was an evolving conversation after the clients closed on the property, and we talked about the different ways to sorry, looking like I'm making the camera. the different ways for the property use. So, what is the highest and best use versus the opportunities for this property. And so there's two parts to this project. The main house is a rental property, so it is a duplex. And then the laneway suite, that was the evolving conversation where there's now a personal use aspect of it. And you see how that plays out in our approach to construction and the financials. With the neighborhood, I put premium East End location, which it absolutely is. Great retail, great restaurants. Tenant profiles are fantastic as well. And it's actually steps to the subway line, so terrific location to line 2, where there's even more development for those that have attended our meetups a while ago, talking about the Ontario line and the impact it's going to have for the different neighborhoods. It's going to have great connectivity with our line as well. For this particular project, because I would probably coin this a mixed use property. I know that's usually for commercial and residential, but in this case, there's different ways to use the property. And for this, because there's that personal aspect, we want to call it that the density could have been increased for this property. So instead of 2 units, maybe it's 3 to maximize cash flow. But there's a preference to build as a rate. And what that means is being able to go straight to the city, clear zoning and get permits. And where my computer is.
Sorry, just talk. Your sound is cutting out, so a bit louder, a bit closer.
Yeah, I'm trying to lean super close. So yeah, I'm cutting out on the audio. Sorry, my laptop is just doing its thing. But the preference is to build it as of right, which means going straight to the city with permit and not going through something called committee of adjustments, which you've probably heard me and Ming say a few times, which is almost like going to a mini court for decisions around the change in use and change for what's called a minor variance or something that's outside of the designated bylaws of the property. So for this project that we're sitting in right now, we are going to go to committee for that extra 4th unit. For this project, we are not, and we designed both the main house and the laneway suites to work within the as of right, can go straight to permits, because what that translates to, especially for investors, is going to committee requires probably at least another 3 to 4 months of wait time at the committee. And if a neighbor or anyone objects, you actually have to deal with an which takes even longer. So there's very deliberate reasons why we did not go to COA for this one. I mean, anything you want to add on that process? Or?
No, I mean, it is very much about, nothing can stop us, nobody can stop us approach, because COA can be a bit of a roll of dice. You prepare your best for COA. Our arguments made by our architects to the committee are often logical. Well, I mean, they absolutely are logical arguments. But what derails it are people who are unfamiliar with the process, might use it as a venting session. The COA has to address complaints, right? That they're fair, even though those complaints are not valid or grounded in reality. So it's just delays, and for anybody, investor or personal use, time is money. And if your project gets delayed a couple of months, that's mortgages being paid and burn that you're just going through. So let's see.
You good? Next slide.
Yeah, go to the next slide.
We're just trying to get back on the laptop so you guys can hear better.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, I'll walk through a bit of this if you want. So this is kind of the before and after. Let me know if you guys can hear me okay. So this is a bit of the before and after. The kitchen, if you can tell, you can use that window as the reference point. The kitchen actually remained in the same location, and the existing kitchen was okay. It wasn't too bad. So why bother even going through this big reno? It's because we are in the neighborhood that we can get. Thanks, Terry. I saw that comment. We're in a neighborhood that can get top rents, but we're only going to get those top rents with the right finishes. And I use the term the right because we don't want to over renovate. We need the look, but a tenant is not going to care if that is a vinyl wrap, shaker cabinet versus it's a real solid wood shaker cabinet. We need the look, but we don't necessarily need to spend on the material. And we need durability, actually. So something like a vinyl wrap is actually going to give us more durability versus a solid wood cabinet. So that's exactly what we've done here. we've renovated to the right spec. And this is going to depend on your tenant profile, which neighborhoods you're in. We would recommend very different, renovation standards if you're, let's say, in Corso Italia versus like a Plater Estates property like this. This is, I mean, equivalent home just sold down the street for
1.938.
yeah, for 1.938. And we bought this property for about $800,000 less.
Oh, and that was a 14-foot wide.
Yeah, and it was a much smaller property. So we're this is what this neighborhood has become over the years.
Can I just interject quickly with regards to the finishes? So one of the things that we have in-house at Volition is we have an interior designer who understands how to design to rental spec. So you're not getting an interior designer who's just going to make things pretty and blow your budget. It's got to be good enough for tenants. It's got to be durable, but coming at the right price as well. Are you guys switching? All right, I see you.
Awesome.
Okay,
go.
back.
Yay.
Sorry, guys. Thanks for bearing with us. This is the joy of virtual walkthrough. You know what? We didn't actually mention at the start, but pre-COVID and the before times, we actually did these live in person. So that's why we're doing our best of our virtual setup and our little camping chairs.
Okay,
So
keep
we're
on
moving
going.
on.
Yep, keep on going.
Okay, cool. Oh, that's going to be a good question to answer later on
Oh,
the gas
yeah.
stove. Yeah, good job.
Garfield
Great
got
question.
good questions.
So let's move to the next slide because Ming did a great job with that. Oh, perfect. So they're more beautiful before and afters. And so one thing you'll see here, like most of the pictures involve some sort of reconfiguration of the space. But one thing we do from a budget perspective is if there's existing plumbing, it is more cost effective to keep the plumbing in approximately the same location. On to the next slide, if you can, Matt. And then one more beautiful picture. This fireplace, for those who worked on the project, will remember it was a massive hulk in the basement, and there was a lot of potential there to actually turn it into a bedroom. So it was all removed. The door, yeah, you can see opens into what was formerly a cold room and is now actually a walk-in closet and storage space. We also did add a closet to the left side of the bed, so the part that you can't see. There is an actual bedroom closet as well. So the storage is actually something we put a lot of thought into for these properties, and often where, in some other renovations, they cut corners, but it impacts the user experience and the tenant profiles that they attract as well. On to the next slide. So I think I saw a thing pop up about laneway suites. So for this one, the project is just getting started. So that's why we have a rendering instead of an actual picture. We'll see, we'll keep you guys posted on the progress for the laneway suite once we're farther along. But just to give you guys a high level summary, it's 2 levels over 1,000 square feet. The configuration is that on the main floor, there is a garage for owner use. There's an office, and there is a room where the architect did fantastic work, squeezing a lot. It's a powder room, combined laundry, and then an interior door through to the mechanical room. And eking out that little bit of extra space allows us to say, oh, it's a 1.5 bath instead of 1 bath, which adds tremendous value. The second floor has a living, dining, kitchen, and bathroom space. So all that is pretty compacted, because can you imagine 1,000 square feet over 2 floors is 500 square feet per floor. One thing I will say is that I'm going to laugh a little bit because there's questions about costs. I will say this is not your typical rental suite. I think I put an exclamation mark on the slide, and Ming is laughing. And the clients, if they are on, they're probably laughing too, because we probably spent more time saying, hey, there are cheaper ways to do this than not. But this is where, with laneway suites, the thinking has evolved a lot over time. I think I saw a question flashed about the viability of it, how is it as an investment? And, having been involved with people that, do laneways or doing it ourselves too, is that it's essentially something to think about where the acquisition cost of the land is 0, and it's a better investment than a condo, but better as a tag on than as a standalone sort of investment vehicle. And the reason for that is, as Ming was saying, that the construction costs have gone up quite a bit. Where we see the strength is actually in the flexibility of the unit. So in this particular unit, don't think of it as a rental, because it's not. It is, high-end end user finishes and appliances. Even down the line, when we share information on it, we'll go, if you build a rental one, don't build it like this. But on the bright side, when and if it does become a rental instead of, let's say, a pied-à-terre, it will command a premium from those in rent that value the finishes and the design for what they are. So one example I'll give is around the first floor that you can see in the exterior rendering. There was a decision made to use architectural block around it instead of cinder block to give it an extra design flair. It is multiples of what cinder block will cost, but there's benefits in that the aesthetics are much better. The structural integrity is there because it's reinforced with rebar, not just wood. So those are the types of things that we're looking at in the design of this laneway suite. In the third bullet, you'll also see that there's in-floor heating on the main floor, which is also a premium way to heat the property. And then there's also a furnace. Actually, I put furnace on the second. It's actually running in the both floors as supplemental heating and cooling for the units. So there is, and out of the scope of today's discussion, I would say there's a range of HVAC options from cost-effective, cheap and cheerful, all the way to a high-end, expensive, takes less space, makes less sound. And then the fourth thing to note is that provisions for the garage to convert into future living space. So what that means is we have worked with the architect and HVAC engineer to account for heating and cooling if the garage at some point turns into an insulated and heated space. We also have in-floor heating running through the garage as well, where if it's just being used as a garage, it'll help, you can keep it at a low temp to keep it warm. If it does turn into living space, then that area is already prepped for the future conversion. Other design considerations include the garage, like upgrading insulation on the garage so it doesn't become just a cold, barren space. We're going to keep you guys updated. I know there'll probably be a lot of questions on the laneway suite, but I'm going to move on, and then probably in a future meetup or some other opportunity, we'll dive into more details as well. Ming, anything you want to add on what we've shared so far?
Nope. I think that's good context. And again, the laneway suite is the personal use space. So then the numbers are very different around there. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, Chris, I'll say I saw your comment. I don't go for 350 anymore. So,
Yeah.
so this is why I'm very yeah. Let's say they don't go for 350 anymore. I mean, for those that Lanescape actually came and presented a meetup some time ago. So there is information there, but unfortunately, we were not authorized to record it. But I will encourage you guys, if you guys want to learn more about laneway suites, to join the Lanescape monthly meetups. They're free. You can Zoom. So, Matt, did you have something to add?
No, you cut out for a second.
Oh, weird. That cut out too. Okay. Is my sound okay now?
Yeah.
Cool. So we're going to go through the project pro forma. Again, I think of it as half of it is as a rental and then the other is the end user. And so this is more if someone thinks about house hacking or ways to make their situation work in the acquisition phase, this would be that kind of example. And I'd say very different from, let's say, examples Matt might share of others in advisory as our boilerplate model. So the purchase price on this was, kudos, Ming, fantastic, 1.271 back in the day. And yeah, like Ming said, it's that neighborhood has done so well since the time we acquired that, that it's no longer that, but the initial investment around 300, give or take. The rental costs, we finished the main house reno. It is now occupied. We're still tallying up the bills. So I'm hoping the clients don't go, wait a minute, are these the numbers? but they're getting there, and I threw in tax as well. So these are just ballparks is what I would say. And then the estimated value, ARV, is something that I wanted to call because Matt and I spent a lot of time thinking about, well, you know, how do we talk about the ARV for refi, which often comes in lower than market value, and what it actually ends up being. And Ming and I also had a chat about how do we value something like this. For laneway suites, it's very new and emerging. There are, I would say, a handful of data points by now for the valuation of main house plus laneway suite sales as well as rents. So some people are starting databases. I keep tabs on a few, but I'm being very conservative here by saying, okay, the laneway suite is valued roughly at the build cost. I know Matt does not love this. There are other ways to value this, but I'd rather be on the lower end. And he's smiling at me because based on recent sales, I can probably say a higher number, but I just don't want to. But what But what I will say though is on the right, there's a beautiful property that you guys can look up. I clear that this is allowed to be posted because it's on House Sigma. 81 Goff, which is in the neighborhood, actually sold very recently for 4.1 million. It is staggering because it's a beautiful house. That's why Matt actually suggested to put in a couple pictures. We toured it. And it is a really nicely built pretty much brand new, pretty big basement if I recall, and then main, second, and third story. So it's significantly larger. And there is a laneway suite in the back. I believe it is about 800 so 1,600 square feet. It's a larger laneway suite as well. But I think you guys can tell by the finishes there, like really nice kitchen, a ton of custom millwork, even in the bedrooms, like they spare it in the and this is going back to trade-offs, right? Like, do you want to build something very luxurious and then have it go for phenomenal numbers to a more select audience maybe? Or do you build something that's more mainstream and rental friendly? And that's where, going back to the intention for today, the advisory, what's going to work for you? How much do you want to put in and what's your long-term goals? Like, this is the kind of discussions you want to have, because Bing is going to look at the white oak fluting on the bedroom and go, whoa, don't put that in a rental.
I am the value-oriented member of Volition.
Value is relative though.
Yeah.
Dare I say thrifty?
I'm the cheapy guy.
I would like to say, I think Matt and I probably are on the like enjoy the finer things, shall we say? But we also, and I'm joking about value because there's certain things that are expensive, but also actually have a lot of value. So that's where we try to give, and ultimately it's a client's decision, right? We can say based on experience, X, Y, Z is worth your money, and some of it's not. Like skylights is actually a big one for us. Like lots of light. Doesn't actually cost too much if you are doing a gut reno, but if you aren't doing a gut reno, it is expensive because you got to cut it, you have to frame it, you have to get a roofer in. But like that's one of those things that is definitely worth the value. And we've got the equity takeout here, assuming we go with that refinance at I think 80% LTV. Over on the next slide, there's more numbers. All right. So what we have here is what we call the sort of post-refi targets. This is still a bit TBD because we have it's based on market rents that I've done research for in leased properties. The configuration for the main house is a 3-bed, 2-bath over the main floor and the basement. So keep in mind, it's a slightly more unusual configuration because sometimes the 3-bed, 2-bath is on the main and second or second and third. Upper floor is a 2-bed, 1-bath. And then the laneway suite is a 1-bed plus den and 1.5 bath. I also threw in the garage, if we look at this more as a rental and the holdings rented out, it could probably go for more than 100, but again, being conservative, and it just happened to land at a nice round number of 8,000 monthly rents. The mortgage, property tax, hydro insurance adds up to about 8,500 if you round up. And you can see on the bottom that the monthly air income, sort of air quotes, would be 472, well, the minus sign. So that's the outlay. And then a net investment of 446,000. So anything you add on the pro formas or just on the property?
No, I think we'll probably get a bunch of questions at the end. Because it is a pre-recorded walkthrough, obviously we can't take questions as it's happening. So, line up those questions and then we'll fire through them at the end.
Yeah, so we have about 22 minutes of pre-recorded walkthrough. So yeah, let's get that started. Tell me if you can see Ming's pretty face.
Yes.
And it is a pretty face.
It's a face that only a mother could love. Okay.
Oh!
Hey guys, hopefully
fired.
you can hear me. It's really windy. So, odd place to start this. I gotta like put my face real close, so that way you can hear me. But basically, I'm starting at the side here because this is actually one of the things we were first evaluating. For this unit in this property, we needed to make sure we had sufficient side setback. So if you look here, if you look down through here, we wanted to make sure that we had 90 centimeters, and we actually originally had a chimney that came down the side of this house. So a big part of this project was to actually remove this chimney And to complicate matters, we had electrical attached to the chimney at the same time. So we had to go through the trouble of changing out the electrical, detaching it from the property, reattaching it again, redoing the flashing up at the side, as well as fixing the roof. But it was worth it to make sure that we guaranteed had our 90 centimeters on our property line. Like, these are just garbage bins that can easily be moved, but to make sure that we have that 90 centimeters and, you know, nobody can kind of take away from us. So I'm gonna walk through the back. I'm gonna cut the film, but I'll walk through the back, and that's where the entrance to the main unit is. Okay, so we're at the back now. It's a little less windy here, so hopefully you can hear me well. But basically, some of the big changes we made were right here at the back of the property. I'll zoom back a little bit. So you'll see here, we have a staircase, and we also have this door and window. Originally, what we had in this property was a sliding glass door, but we wanted to give this unit its own entrance and utilize the side setback and have them come in through the rear of the house. So, you know, in order to make this call it a real entrance instead of a sliding glass door, we made the decision to change this to a regular door, put in some windows there, and build this, this walk up. So there was originally stone steps that came all the way down, and those are now gone. So one of the big reasons we really like this property is it has a very deep lot. So you can see, you know, main house starts here, and roughly over here where flow is, this is where about 7.5 meters is. So this is roughly where the laneway suite would begin.
Okay. So this is about where the laneway suite would begin. We didn't plan it this way, but it's a really good marker, and that's one of the things we look for this property. It's almost 120 feet wide, deep actually. I wish it was wide, but it's
Yeah, it's pretty wide, but yeah, 120 feet deep.
Yeah, this fence is pretty to see because the property line actually goes all the way back to the end.
So just in case you can't hear flow, the property line actually goes all the way back here. This whole parking pad is part of the property. So how big is the laneway?
So it's going to be about 1,000 square feet, so 500 square feet per floor, over 2 stories, and with the laneway we can build to the full width of the house there.
Great. This is just a shot of the back, so you can have an idea the size of this lot. So yeah, about 1,000. I think we're having a garage on this side, stairs up, and then the suite at the top, and some smaller living office space at the bottom here. Fantastic. Okay, we're gonna go inside because it's freezing.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're at the front of the back of the house, but this is where the main entrance would be. So I showed you guys what it looks like from the outside. This part of the house is relatively unchanged. So when we bought this property, it had the length that we were looking for to get the layouts that we wanted. That was really important. A couple of things that are updated and different here. We've got LED pot lights. Here's an HVAC system. This house did not have forced air HVAC. And if you pan over here, this kitchen is in the same location, but it was a little different. So basically this wall extended all the way to about here, and the kitchen was closed off, so we didn't have, you know, continuous space between where our kitchen is and the common living area. And this part over here, this was a closet. It was a closet slash pantry. One of the major things for us was making sure that we had a bathroom above grade. It had a full bathroom, but it was down in the basement. But we wanted to make sure that people had a full bathroom up here. So if you come through this beautifully renovated kitchen.
Beauty shot of the kitchen.
So we made another bathroom up here. It's a bit narrow, right? But it gives you full functionality. In this, what used to be a pantry, we managed to squeeze in a vanity, a toilet, and a shower, stand-up shower unit. Now we still have a full bathroom downstairs as well. So this becomes a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom unit. So this is a lot of space up here. Okay, so going through here, this area here was the former living dining room area. So that place that we came in originally was set up as this weird open concept bedroom, which people would have to walk in and out to get to the backyard. You know, we like to stack our common areas at the rear, so that way people can access the common plus the rear all together without having to trek through bedrooms. And we basically split up the old living dining room into 2 bedrooms. So we've got, you know, 1 bedroom here, there's closets on this side. I'll let Flo take a peek in. And we've got the other bedroom here. Again, closets on the one side. Now, one thing to note that's a little interesting about this space is we've got another door here. So this is what's called a convenience store. So we have our real entrance at the back, and we have an additional door here. The reason this is interesting is because we've been actually told 2 different things as to whether or not to have these or not have these. So on one project, we wanted to put this in, like literally for convenience. If somebody is, you know, let's say moving furniture, they want to come in through the front of the house, they have access right through the whole house. So we wanted to add this, and we were given a very hard time about adding a convenience store. Our original layout here didn't, after we got burned in the city doing that, when we came to design this place with the architect, we didn't put this convenience store in, and they came back and told us we needed to put it in. Anyway, so your triplex may or may not have a convenience store, depending on what's required by the city. But this is a fire-rated, self-closing door that we have. This allows this unit also access to the front. It is through the bedroom. It's not meant as the primary entrance. It's also why it's completely solid. Cool. Next clip, I'll bring you guys down to the basement and show you the rest of the unit. Okay, so I walked you through the main area, the kitchen, the 2 bedrooms up on this floor, and there's a full bath. There's also a bedroom and a common area, plus another bathroom and laundry in the basement. This is quite a large unit, and we're expecting quite, good rents as a result. So follow me down through here. We kept the original staircase, but we did retread it. So this is something that we'll often do on our properties because we don't want to touch the staircase. Anytime we start moving it or lengthening it, we have to bring it to new code, and therefore it becomes a much more expensive proposition. But we can upgrade the look by simply replacing the treads, repainting risers and stringers, and it makes it look a lot better. So coming down through the basement here, what we have on the floor here is vinyl plank. If you're not as familiar with materials to use these days, this is kind of like the most popular in potentially wet areas like a basement. Vinyl plank is a far superior product to what it used to be. It's not that terrible sticky vinyl that you probably saw 10 or 15 years ago. It's quite a good product. Provides a bit of a thermal break between your feet and the floor. It's not going to be perfect, but it does provide a bit of a thermal break. So through here we've got 1 bedroom. If you recall, I mentioned the chimney. So what we used to have here was a giant fireplace. It took up all this area, and this window was completely closed off. So we brought the window back, we removed this whole chimney and this fireplace, and this created a whole extra room. So now we have a 3-bedroom down here. We had to do an upgrade of the panel. So this is a brand new 200 amp service panel that we have here now. Everything nicely labeled. And on this side, this was our former cold storage room. So what we did here, it used to be a kind of an unfinished cold storage area, is we finished it out, we insulated it and waterproofed it. So now it can be used as a large storage area, walk-in closet for somebody who's renting this unit. We also have here, intentionally cut out, this is the clean out valve. This is the backflow valve that we have for the property. Adding this is another, if you are doing a major renovation in the basement, highly suggest spending a couple extra $1,000 to make sure you've got this backflow valve. This basically prevents, if there's back pressure in the sewage system from the city because of a flood happening, this prevents that sewage water from coming back up into your house. So very much worthwhile spending money on this, and I believe there's also a rebate back from the city when you install these. Okay, so walking through the rest of the basement here. So this used to be one large open area. We did subdivide it into this basement. So now you have kind of a study nook. This can be used as a little entertainment spot. The other thing that really attracted us to this property, even though we're in the basement, fantastic ceiling heights. I'm not a tall guy, 5'7", but I can't touch the ceiling very easily. So it's plenty of height here. But this is also really important. This large, wide window, getting a lot of light in here. And Flo, if you sneak on over, one of the things I really like as well is the distance between this window and the grading. Sometimes you'll come across houses where the grade and the window are right next to each other. So even if you get a slight amount of water buildup, it's coming right into your house. This has, we've got a good, I'd say 5 to 6 inches separating this window from the grade below, which means that, there's some allowance of water before it starts pouring through your windows. Got some utilities and storage under here. And through here, we've got our full bathroom. Now, the original orientation here was just a large common area. And then over here was this bathroom in the center, laundry on the side, strange corridor down here. We gutted all of that, redid the layout. So we've basically got a new bathroom down here. So, full tub, full size. So, especially when we're looking at these 3-bedroom layouts, because the demographic shifts a bit and sometimes we are attracting young families, we want to make sure if we have the ability to add in a tub for the kids. So that's new, and then behind Florence over here, we have our laundry area. So this unit gets its own laundry sink. Yeah, tons of room and space down here. And then our mechanicals hidden nicely behind here. We've got, so what this property was originally purchased, it had electrical heating. We moved to forced air, especially on these luxury units. It's really nice for each unit to have individual control over their own AC, over their own heating. So we have one unit down here. We've got another separate unit upstairs. Smaller furnaces that we have. And there we've got our hot water tank kind of tucked in underneath the stairs, and that's just so we're saving space. Okay, that's basically this unit. We will now go upstairs and check out the top unit.
Yep.
Cool. So this is the entrance to the top unit. This is off the main street here. So you come up and you have your own front entrance. Coming through here. Oh. One thing to note actually is this up here. Not super tidy right now, but it was very important for us to make sure things like internet, cable, come through a common area. So at least more than one tenant could access this, or it's easily accessible by the landlord. If you need to reset the router or whatever it happens to be, it's all up here, and it's kind of common area but kept out of the way. And so then this is so we talked about the convenience store before on the main floor unit. That's it right here. Coming through here, we go up to our top unit. One of the things that made this property attractive as an investment property for us
and not for others is because it was semi-finished. It wasn't really in bad shape, but the current layout was really confusing. If a person walked through, they, unless you have that experience or vision, it was very hard to imagine how you could get multiple units in here, how you could lay it out properly. So this is really where working with people that have experience in doing this is very helpful. So come up here. We've got a nice skylight right above the staircase, and this is on the side. This is on the party wall side, and that's what we try to bring in some light. This is an existing skylight. I'll bring you in through the kind of the common area that we have. Again, we have this this plank, vinyl plank flooring. Nice stuff. This layout was actually very similar. There was a kitchen here. There was a bathroom, but it was done strangely. The bathroom was really big. I would say it was probably like an 8-foot wide bathroom. At the same time, the toilet was off-centered, like it was kind of in the middle of that 8-foot bathroom. So what we did is we actually shrunk the bathroom. The bathroom used to come to roughly here. We shrunk it back so it only takes up the 4.5, 5 feet that you really need. And with that extra space, we put a laundry in here. So now each unit has access to its own laundry. Then the bathroom, fully renovated the bathroom, put the toilet not in the middle of the bathroom, back up against the wall where it belongs. And we kept it lined up with this skylight. We actually don't need it to be this wide. We could have probably gotten away with it being even more narrow. But if we did that, then we would have some challenges with the skylight. And we wanted to make sure that the skylight remained, because it's a very nice feature to have in the bathroom. So the common area here is definitely smaller, and that will have a slight impact to rents. The flip side is that each of the bedrooms have their own dedicated outdoor space. We have a deck in the back and a deck in the front. So this is very much what I call a roommate layout, right? Where you can have your common area between the two roommates, but each one has a really nice dedicated space of their own. So if you follow me over here, HVAC. So this was just a hallway actually, and we squeezed in a furnace. You can see it all through here. So this unit has its own HVAC. So we've got a first bedroom here, and they have their own walkout. So big patio door here, tons of light in the property, and people have access to this deck or porch to look out over on the street. A lot of storage here. We've got closets all throughout. And if you look above, we have our headers for HVAC, our new HVAC that came through here. And our interconnected fire alarm.
Safety first.
Safety first. I should mention some of the things about finishes as well. I didn't touch on that. So you see everything here is a bit of a step up from what you maybe might be familiar with when it comes to rental properties. So, we have stainless steel appliances. These are not kind of bottom of the end stainless steel appliances. They're I'd say lower mid-range. We have gas stoves. Both downstairs and upstairs have gas stoves. One of the reasons for us choosing gas stoves and gas dryers is to reduce the overall electrical load on this property, because we are putting in a laneway suite, which is going to take up even more electricity, and we want to keep within that 200 amp limit. So we've got gas countertops here. We've got a quartz countertop, and it's not like the super cheapy quartz. It's a little bit up from a very low end quartz. These are actually vinyl wrap cabinets. It's a nicer vinyl wrap, a little bit of pattern, a little bit of texture to them. And we have two tones. So we're using one type of vinyl wrap at the bottom and then a white vinyl wrap on the uppers. A little bit more money spent on the backsplash just to give it a bit of style.
not a super expensive kitchen, but like a couple of these touches that elevate the look. And we want to do that because that's what our tenant profile is expecting, right? Remember, we're competing against condos, and this needs to be a great condo alternative. So we'll go to the second room in the back, and this room is a bit bigger. So we've got a large room back here. We've got our closets again stacked on one side. Here we went with frosted glass. And then we've got our walkout deck here. Whew. I'm gonna close that. It's really cold. But
You can imagine it's summer.
yeah, maybe Flo, when you can come through and take a shot out here so people can see the rear of the property. But we've got this, wonderful walkout deck, lots of space, and a nice view. It overlooks, there's a rooftop garden behind us and things like that. So a nice laneway view. Some laneways are, looks quite terrible, but this is quite a nice one. I think that's it. Anything I'm missing on this upstairs unit, Flo?
No, I think you captured it all. That's great.
Cool. Yeah, so we have other properties, and we'll have, I think, a Q&A at the end, so hopefully you have all your questions lined up.
All right. I think that's it. I am now just trying to figure out how to. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can see
Yep.
you.
Okay. I have no clue what happened to the rest of the presentation, so.
That's fine. Let's open it up to see if there's questions about the property, questions about construction.
There's
life in
nothing
general.
there's nothing that got queued up. Are you guys still spotlighted or something?
Well, we probably should be because we're the presenters.
Okay. Okay. Well.
You have anything confidential on the back of that paper you're holding?
All my personal financials. No, there's a couple of things. Okay, so yeah, well, I mean, we'll open it up to Q&A, and then I'm gonna try to get the presentation pulled back up here for our finishing touches. So go ahead. There was nothing in the chat
There's
box.
a few questions
Yeah,
I
there's a
see in
couple
the,
questions.
yeah, was it queued up?
Yep. So let's start then with the gas stove question.
Yeah.
So the reason for using gas services is not a tenant-driven one, but an electrical capacity one. Because we use gas stoves and gas dryers throughout, because we also have to power a laneway suite, right? And we need to make sure that we've got enough electrical capacity for everything. So we moved to gas appliances where we could, so you'll see gas stoves and gas dryers in the property. Because you have practically speaking, you have a 200 amp limit. If you go past 200 amps, which you can, you need to bury the wire. That can get very expensive depending on how far that service has to be. If you happen to just have service right in front of your house, burying it is like a couple $5,000. If the service is far away, you've got a long way to bury, you're looking at $20,000, $30,000. So it really depends. We don't like to gamble on that, so we try to work around a 200 amp limit.
Cool.
Next question.
Was there any others?
Let's see.
So are they not queued up at all? Just want to double check. And then
Basically, there was just a couple questions like, what's the reno cost of the laneway? Are you able to share the costs? Like, we went over some of that already. There was a comment from Tanya a few years ago. Laneway houses seem to be the next big thing, but it doesn't seem to be as big today as expected. Why do you think that is? I find that an interesting perspective. I would say they're a huge thing. So it's, there's a lot of attention and a lot of people who are very, very interested in building laneways. From an investment perspective, they're Flo touched upon this very quickly. They're a fantastic way to boost cash flow in a cash flow strapped market like Toronto. So as Flo was mentioning, like, the land base is effectively zero. So of course there's a premium now associated with properties that can build laneway suites. So call that a 10% or whatever that number is, 10, 15%. So, 150,000, 200,000, something. Okay, yeah, I mean, that's just the value of the land itself. Building the laneway, call it 600,000 now to build a laneway, hopefully a sizable laneway, 1,200 to 1,400 square feet would be a great size. In a lot of areas, that can generate upwards of 3,500 to 4,000 in rent. There's more and more data points are starting to emerge now, but think about the alternative. The alternative in Toronto is buying a 2-bedroom condo, 2-bedroom 1-bath or whatever, 2-bedroom 2-bath in condo in Toronto for 900,000 or 850, 900,000, and you would get maybe $3,000 in rent. So it's a fantastic way to boost cash flow in Toronto. In fact, it's one of the best ways, and it's a tack on to an existing business model. We're already investing in really good freehold properties, freehold, triplexes, fourplexes. This is just an addendum to that. It does take a long time. It does take a lot of money. I think flows. How long is the planning process and the construction process now?
Long about, I'd say 6 months to permit, if there aren't too many revisions, and then I'm hearing kind of anywhere from 8 to 11 months for the actual build, depending on the complexity of the project.
Man, that's
Part of
really
it is the supply chain issues that we're encountering. Like, even for my own renovation, our hardwood floors we ordered in November. It was supposed to arrive in January, and it came, I believe, last week. So that's well past when it was supposed to come. Let's put it that way. So there's, yeah.
So that's funny because when we first embarked on these, talking the landscape and stuff, we used to set the expectation at, 6 months of the planning, 6 months of the construction. But COVID has really thrown a wrench into that. So anyway, cool. So I just wanted to quickly touch on that. So Tanya, you asked that question. Is there anything else you want to add to that? Like I just find that an interesting perspective. So maybe you have something you want to add.
Maybe it also comes from the increased construction costs.
Yeah.
I think I don't speak for you, Tammy, but probably there was a time where laneways look like a bargain because of construction costs. I'd say they're still good investments, just not a bargain any longer.
Yeah, that's cool. One thing I just came back to this picture because there's something I wanted to add. Obviously, there were decisions made from an end user perspective, specifically for this laneway, right? Which doesn't maximize its rental potential, as Flo was referring to earlier. So one of the things that they decided to do here was a embedded garage, an internal garage. One of the things that we worked with Landscape on is figuring out how to get parking, I put these air quotes here, but not necessarily eat away at the square footage significantly. And one of the things that we came up with Landscape is as long as you have a good enough size width of lot, that's generally 18 to 20 feet on the minimum. There's already a requirement for about 5 feet setback from the rear lot line. And so if we set back 5 feet, if we just, which is already required, if we just set back an additional 3 feet, you can actually have an informal parking pad that allows a car to parallel park right there. And so what that does is that eats away at 3 feet times 18 feet of square footage, rather than maybe 200 square feet or 200 and some odd square feet required for an internal garage. That can contribute, so you get your parking spot and you still retained as much of the square footage as possible. So those are the types of things that we typically try to maximize the value of the laneway. So Flo, quick question. She's sending me a message to wrap it up because she's got to go to the washroom.
Actually, I will say Ming has left the building because he couldn't wait.
Not Elvis? Okay. One last thing. On this project, we are building the laneway suite after we're complete the construction of the main house. Can you talk about a little bit maybe 30 seconds just about why do it sequentially, or why you're required to do it sequentially versus trying to do it in parallel, or trying to do it at least staggered.
Oh, I think we talked about as part of the preparation for this. This is one of those where I would direct people to actually go to advisory and have a chat with, either ourselves on the team, well, anyone on the team about this. The order for sequencing is related to the permits and things like oh boy, because one thing I told Matt is that we should probably have a separate laneway suite session.
Yeah.
It is essentially land development is what we're doing, including running services to the main house. And so what that involves is a very deliberate set of steps around if we need to run the services, gas, electricity, and drains through the property or not. And if we were to run, there is a more of an obscure bylaw where if it is more than 2 units, or two units or more within a property, you can't run a drain through the interior of the unit. And so there's, I don't want to get too deep in it, but that's an example of the bylaws that we had to navigate. And then the other thing is that the lead time process to actually get the permit is also really long. So even if you want to do both at the same time, what we did is we did the initial drawings with the architect for both projects together, but there are extra steps required for laneway suite. So one thing that it's called the development charge deferral. So the way we do our main house renovations, or multi-step stepping stone approach, I should say, to multifamilies, is that we avoid the development charges by going 1 unit at a time. And even if it means going to COA. For laneway suites, there's actually an opportunity to defer the development charges for a laneway suite for a period of up to 20 years. It is a process that actually involves having to get your own lawyer to work with the city lawyer to sign a very long legal agreement. It takes our architects 6 to 8 weeks. It ended up being about 8 weeks. There's a lot of back and forth. And then it's actually registered on title to not sever the property. I think that's one of the reasons when someone's saying, oh, laneway suites were considered hot, I think there was a lot of attention on severance potential, but they've made it clear that that's not the desire of the city to sever. And if you do it within the 20 years, examples of charges you might have to pay could be 90,000. It could be in another property we saw, I think 60 or 70,000. And so it's one of those it depends answers, and I think better served either in an advisory session depending on your own needs. And I think one is whether you'll live in it or not, you want to live in it or not, or if it's a pure rental for everything, and also the amount, your willingness as an investor to carry the property vacant if needed, if you want to build a laneway suite first.
Yeah.
So that was not a 30-second answer, but just to illustrate. I told you that this is beyond the scope of today's discussion.
Flo actually told me not to ask her that question.
But I can't help answering it, because just to give people a flavor of why I didn't want to answer it, and it's better served in a separate thing or on kind of a one-on-one with a team member. So,
For sure. So sorry for putting you on the spot, but not.
That's okay. I expect it from you now, so.
Okay, good stuff. Well, thanks, Flo.
Solution, right? If Ming comes back and I need to run out, then we can do that. And again, the importance of investing in prime Toronto real estate where you can run to a Starbucks.
And not do what the contractors do, which is just pee on site.
Yeah. Well, actually, we actually joked about that, but we're like, where we are, I will say, and our clients have known, they're going to laugh. They have cameras. So it wouldn't be a good look if someone took a leak in the bushes.
Good stuff. Cool. So what now? What do I do? What's my next step? So, we refer to this quite often throughout the presentation, but really it's advisory, because there is no one size fits all solution. It is very customized to you, your goals, what you're trying to achieve, and your capacity, your borrowing capacity, the amount of capital, all that kind of stuff. That's what we do during advisory. We want to figure out basically 3 things: where you are now, where you want to go, and then we help you build that plan to get there. So sign up for advisory. I think Ali Khan's going to drop a link in the chat. And and now we want to know how ready you are to take action. So how ready are you to take action? After seeing this, does this scare the heck out of you? You're saying there's no way in hell I'm doing one of these, or maybe a reno like this, maybe a reno not as big as this, or maybe turnkey. That's all good too. So yeah, let us know.
Matt, your rectangle is being blocked, by the way. It's grayed
Oh,
out.
okay. Sorry, that's the poll that showed up on my. Okay, and what is my next step number 2? So let's attend the next meetup. So here's the next poll. Attend the next meetup. So the topic for the next meetup is, does investing in Toronto real estate still make sense today? This is a question I literally get every day. I have an advisory session probably like 1 or 2 a day. And I literally get this question every single day. So I wanted to answer that for you. I want to give you at least the Volition perspective on this, because I know it's top of mind for everyone. Oh my God, the market went up 17% or 20% or whatever the number is. How do you still find properties? Does it still make sense? Is there a crash? Is a crash coming? Is this a good time to be buying? We're going to answer all that for you next month. So I think Alicon's going to drop the link in the chat, and you can RSVP for our next meetup. And what do you want to learn about? So we have not actually set the agenda for next for the rest of the year. So we want to know what you want to learn about. We gave you some options here in terms of the various options, various topics we thought you might want to learn about. Vote for those, or if you got other ideas, put it in the Zoom chat box, or if you think about it later, send us an email at info@volitionprop.com. So I do believe that is it, and we are right at time.
Hooray.
So who can do it? You could do it. We think you can, and we think we can help you along in that journey. All good. Is there anything else people want to? So, is there anything else people want to see or talk about? I'll hang out here for another few minutes. You guys can unmute yourself. We can have a chat. You guys can. Oh, does Lisa want me to speed up? Okay, well, I mean, we're at the end. You could drop off.
No, I think we're good unless people have questions. But other than that, yeah.
Well, hopefully, I really hope we could do this in person sometime soon. I hope that I get to see your pretty faces soon enough. But we wanted to show you real life. What we do, we show you a lot of theory, we show you some case studies, but today we actually wanted to show you a real life property. These are real clients, these are real investors, these are real people doing it. So, and you can too. So, all right. Were there any comments, any questions in the chat box? Well, I'll hang out here. So, if you guys want to chat?
You do that. I'm going to sign off.
Yeah,
you guys have a great weekend. Bye.
There was one question that wasn't answered.
Sure. What is it?
From Godfrey.
Yep.
If we just see here.
For the fourplex, you guys managed to 200? Yep. Yeah, we managed with 200. And
so I was wondering, do you guys include, in the video they're talking about internet, right?
Yeah.
In common area.
Yeah.
So is it you guys run everything or you rent inclusive, or you separate
so
them?
everyone does it a little bit differently. Some people include internet, some people don't. So Volition investors, there's no set standard. We like to include internet under the right circumstances. So good service that isn't constantly going down. I shared at a previous meetup, I had come across Bell Business 5 gigabit internet. Fiber is extremely stable. Pair that with an extremely stable router, and you have rock solid internet. So you're not dealing with stupid tenant requests like, oh, internet's down and all that crap, right? I don't want to do that. I wouldn't do that if it wasn't stable, right? So what I wanted I didn't tell you about the price. So it is a 3-year contract at $60 a month. Now, if I can recoup that through 3 or 4 units, each willing to pay me an extra $50 rent, because they don't have to sign up for internet themselves. They don't have to have any they don't have to call and negotiate rates, wait for it to be installed, all that stuff. Yeah. Anyway, to answer your question, I include internet in my properties because I want it to be like a turnkey experience for my tenants, and it's value add for them. Not everyone does. So some things to think about: where you're going to put the router, where does the modem go, where does the router go, and is it going to be stable? Right? Does that answer your question? Oh, the other thing is that now as we're moving to smart homes, so again, our tenant profile, I don't know if you saw, there was some upgraded locks in that property, right? Smart locks. Ecobee was also in there, if you saw that. That gives us the ability now, because it's a lot more difficult to run those smart features through my tenant's internet, right? So if I have internet already set up there, then I can monitor certain things like I can monitor the temperature in the property. I can also, I can program locks to allow access for trades and stuff like that. Give temp lock codes, all that kind of stuff, right? So, and it's a super value add feature that targets our type of tenant demographic. Cool.
Yep, thanks.
All right. Were there any other questions? Are there certain characteristics we look for? Oh no, Chris is answering a question. There are certain characteristics. Okay, fourplex from Godfrey. Tanya saying, thanks for talking about this. All good.
I think that's everything in the queue.
Here's another thing. So Tanya, perception on cost versus return. Currently, I'd say probably in best case scenario, you're gonna get the valuation at cost. Especially, does this work for a buy, rent, or rent refi? As an example, one problem we run into is that there's not enough data points, and in fact, the lenders and the appraisers haven't caught up yet, specifically on laneways. So you can build this thing. You might have a lender and appraiser who doesn't know how to value the damn thing. So we know, or we think, we have a view that a $500,000 build for a laneway should really substantially increase property value much more than 500. It should probably be 6, 7, 750, like somewhere in that range, right? We can justify this through multiple means. We should be able to adjust it on a cap rate approach. Yes, I know you don't use cap rates for this type of property, but cap rate approach, income approach, a cash flow approach as well. So if I were to try to sell this thing on the market, so on the market, we have confidence that it'll reach a certain value, or it'll add a certain value to an existing property. Now come to appraisers. Some appraisers literally will not place a value on it at all. They'll just pretend it's like a garage because they don't know how to value them. At best, we hope for that they'll just value the laneway at cost, at build cost. So if it costs you $500 to build, we should hopefully try to get a $500,000 bump in valuation, right? So that's kind of what we hope for. Now, once things mature, lenders figure their crap out and appraisers figure their crap out, we should be more in an environment where it'll work a lot better for a buy, rent, or rent refi, right? They'll get there. They're just kind of behind the ball right now, right? They're behind the 8 ball. So again, just to give you some sample financials, don't hold me to this, but this is what we're starting to see with the data points. A $500,000-$600,000 build can generate. What you should be able to get is like a 1,200 to 1,400 square foot laneway based upon the lots, the lot dimensions, and there's a whole bunch of stuff. You got a setback from the rear lot line. There's a minimum requirement, 7.5 meters from the rear main wall of the main house to the beginning. Then there's like angular plane and all this other stuff. Anyway, but we can get 12 to 1,400 square feet, typically a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. That could rent for about $3,500 to $4,000, generally speaking. Or $500,000, $600,000 build, that's fantastic in Toronto, right? Okay. Were there any other questions? Okay, so Tanya, hope you don't mind. I'm going to read your private message to me. Whoa, that's nice. You guys are awesome. This was great and fun. Would love to attend. Is there a fee to work with you after the initial complimentary advisory session? So there's an initial advisory session that typically after that I send you away with some homework typically, and then we come back, have another like a 30-minute and another 30-minute, after which if we determine that we can actually work well together, if we think we can add value to you in your property, in your real estate journey, and you meet some minimum requirements, like you actually can qualify for a house in Toronto or a property in Toronto, yeah, we'll work together. There's a $3,000 advisory retainer fee that gets 6 hours of advisory with the head of advisory. I'm currently head of advisory. That 6 hours will be used in any way, shape, or form that you see fit. So we can use that to come up with a strategy for you. We can come up with a plan for you. I can jump on calls with you and your mortgage broker, you and your accountant. We can answer questions like, should I invest inside Toronto or outside Toronto, or what's the best strategy for whatever. Sometimes I even jump on calls with people and their life partners. I jump on calls with them and their joint venture partners because there's some details that I can communicate. However you see it being most valuable to you in removing obstacles. So you get 6 hours of advisory. The output of advisory is really a specific set of parameters for your property search. Then you'll transition to investment realty, and investment realty is about executing on what it is on the real estate plan that we set forth as per the parameters that we determined during advisory. When you complete a transaction using our investment realty services, your advisory retainer will be rebated back to you in full. So effectively, advisory would be free. So hopefully that answers your question. It's a way for us to ensure that we're working with people who are serious about taking action. How do you make money from the project? Sorry, I'm new here. As a realtor? Oh, okay. So hopefully that answers the question. We don't effectively make money on advisory. It's a value-add service. There is a retainer up front that gets rebated back to you. How do we make money? We make money as realtors. So we're realtors on the deal, just like any other realtor, but hopefully we add a hell of a lot more value than your average realtor. A guy who takes you to a condo, do you really need a realtor to tell you whether you like the color of the paint or you like those countertops? Like, come on, let's be real. So we look to add tremendous value to you in your process. And then on the renovation, it's depending on how depending on what we do on the renovation, generally speaking, yes, it's a percentage of renovation. Do we consult just in the GTA? We are real estate investment experts in the GTA, in Toronto, specifically as per the Volition business model. That said, I've been a real estate mentor and advisor to many people outside the GTA as well. I am not familiar with those specific markets insofar as, okay, this is exactly what you should do. You will need to find an expert in that market, an expert investment realtor, for example. We have good contacts almost everywhere. If you need someone in Hamilton or KWC or whatever, we typically have people in every market. So we can help refer you to someone, and I can still act as your real estate advisor or mentor insofar as, okay, this is really what you should be asking. This is what you should be considering. This is what you should be looking at or trying to evaluate when looking at real estate or investing in real estate in these various markets. The fundamentals are very much the same. The specifics as per that market will be different though. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay, was there anything else? All right, cool. Well, I'll hang out here for another 10 seconds if anyone wants to unmute themselves or if they want to show their face. All right, there's Terry.
Hey, Matt. I got a question about, it kind of ties off of what Godfrey was asking about the internet.
Yeah.
I, in my properties, have cameras on the exterior. Do you do that for your properties as well?
Personally, I have not. There's a lot of Volition clients who have. They'll use things like Wisecams, or like Wisecams are typically a pretty good option. I'd have to go back. One of the benefits of being a Volition client is that you get access to our inner circle. It's a WhatsApp chat. I referred to it earlier. I'm like I know for a fact there's a couple of Volition investors who have very specific requirements. And I think it's Wisecam, maybe even like the Google Nest Cams. I'd have to go back through our chat to see what it is they use specifically. But the answer is yes, many of our Volition investors do. And you typically common spaces and exterior, yes.
And second part of that question is, have those investors or anybody that you know of ever had issues with bylaw officers? Because we have some issues with fortification rights in Hamilton. It's just a bylaw thing, but it's like a very minute thing.
Nope. That is, I haven't come across anything. I don't personally do it. None of our investors who do it have reported